Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key of enhancing our performances and for our growth as professionals. With this principle in mind, TechGig has initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give a crisp insight of various domains. Topic for today's webinar session is Magento and Drupal, a case study on how to overcome the limitations. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Somokant S., Head Engineering and Technology at Excella Services Private Limited. Somo worked with Excella Services Private Limited. He has enormous experience of working on PHP, Magento, Drupal, Joomla, etc. Gentlemen, this presentation will continue for next 45 minutes and we'll take your questions after the presentation. In the meanwhile, you can post your queries to the chat pane available in the webinar software. Without further ado, I introduce you to our guest speaker, Mr. Somo.
Hello everyone, my name is Somokant Sharma. I am the head of tech and engineering in Excella. In Excella, in our tech team, we work both on Drupal and Magento for the last 3 years. And here I am to share some of the case studies of the projects that we have done in both these solutions. I'm aware most of the attendants here are already aware of Magento and Drupal, or either one of them. So I'm going to take one solutions after another. Most of the developers or the team leads or the project managers must be having some new projects, and while implementing it in either of these two solutions, they face some certain restrictions which certain restriction on these two solutions and how to overcome those solutions. So today I will be presenting our own case study on two projects that we have done on the two solutions. Now, the first one I'm picking up is a Magento case study. As on the screen, you can see that it's a couponing website. It's an eBay project that we did for Philippines, and it's built on enterprise Magento. From the screen, you can see that it's a sales website. There were extensive customization that we performed specifically on the back end, and most of the features were already present on Magento, but there were some features which the client specifically wanted, which we had to completely customize. Now, let's look at what those features are. Yeah, what the client wanted was a multilingual e-commerce site in a master slave environment. It should have all the default functionality of a normal e-commerce site. An example of catalog management, order management, reports, gift coupon, time-based sales, and specific functionalities on category where some minor customizations were done. Among those challenges, I'm now going to present two of them specifically. One is the product creation approval flow. This feature allows an admin to moderate all the products that are being created by multiple sellers in the Magento backend. The second thing is it's a conditional checkout flow based on the product that you have added into your cart. An example, by default, Magento is built for a merchandise product where it has the billing, the shipping, and payment flow. But when the seller wants to sell some, let's example, a virtual product, some paid services, so there is no default support for those kinds of products on Magento. So we had to do some major customization and overflow those challenges, and I'm going to show you how we did that. Okay. The slide you are seeing now is a basic flow of how the admin will moderate the product. We have initially launched this as phase 1, where we have provided just a basic functionality, and in phase 2 there are lots that are coming up, but they are still in development phase. Okay, now what happened in a product moderation layer is that the seller comes, log into the backend and create the products. But those products are not immediately visible on the front end. The admin logins, and they have an option of preview on each product the seller have created. And you can see when they click the preview button, it opens the product page in a view of that of a front end. Plus, you can see that there are buttons at the top where they can either approve or reject. There are other sorts of features embedded here, like the notification system, the SMS systems, when the admin performs either an approve or a reject operations. Now let's see how we implemented these features. Okay, number 1. Okay, sorry. The first thing is we inserted a new button called preview on backend. To do it, it's pretty simple. You just override the block of make admin HTML as shown on the screen, and on the next step, we just simply created a controller for it, so that when the button is clicked, it calls the catalog product mates and show the preview view of the product, along with 2 buttons which we have implemented using jQuery. And when either of the button is clicked, we have also created a custom attribute called approval_status, on which this field is updated. And now this handles the backend part. Now what happens when on the front end part? We have to apply a default filter on front end so that only those products are displayed which are approved by the admin. For that, we have the second points here. You just have to override the model match catalog model layer, as there's a snippet of the code, and the approval_status is highlighted to show that this field is taking the settings of this field. So this is the basic way of doing it, and there are more coding required. If anyone is interested, they can contact me for any guidance on this one. Now, moving ahead, let's go to that second option of conditional checkout. Yeah, as you can see the screen, Magento by default is a 5-step process. And I think the developers, many of the developers have come across Magento projects where they have to customize the checkout. So the requirement in our case was that the user should be able to log in using their eBay account and the Facebook account. If a user logins by eBay, the API fetches its address profile and pre-populate the fields of billing and shipping. But for a Facebook, the Facebook API, in the Facebook API, if you fetch a profile of a person, the address fields are not present. So what we did was, if it's the first time, we allow them to fill in the details, and when an order is completed, we create a user for it, so that when it comes in and when they log in again using the Facebook, we map it by using the email ID, and it will show the my address section. Now, when these are done, Then we have also implemented a conditional checkout fields. Like for a virtual product, if you are buying a virtual product, all the default shipping fields are not displayed at all. Only the email ID is displayed, which will take you directly to the checkout, to the payment page. And for the merchandise product, it's the default Magento checkout. Below the snippet, you can see how we have overridden when the user is either login, and when you do a checkout, you will see that my address drop downs that comes. But in our case, since it's happening to an eBay and Facebook, we are fetching it separately and inserting it under the drop down. If an eBay account holder has multiple addresses in his profile, then they will come down under my address in a drop down. So these are the basic way that we have did in the phase 1 of our eBay coupon project. Now let's move ahead to Drupal. For Drupal, I'm going to share a case study of California Fitness project. We did it for 4 basic regions: the Hong Kong, the China, the Singapore, and Taiwan. It's a multilingual site with a lot of feature. Now let me just show you what were the best feature requirements of this project. Yeah. On Drupal, it supports the multilingual, and we implemented the multi-site. All the 4 regions websites are running on a single code base, and they are on multi-site architecture on different database. But there are still more some microsite sharing the same database amongst themselves. And there are also exercise classes calendar. We initially started with the calendar module, and the client requirement was extensive, so we have to drop that and build our own calendar module. You can go to the website californiafitness.com/HK, and you can take a look at there's a schedule link where you can see the functionality. Now the main part of the challenges, the first part, as we faced it earlier with other clients, is that Drupal does not have a clear separation between the staging and the product live environment. So this was a big roadblock using Drupal. And the second thing was the client wanted the single login feature. As an example, if he is already logged in on one website, and when he visits the second website, he should be automatically logged in. So now let me share with you these 2 features on how we overcame it. Okay, the first is keeping a separate staging and live environment. For features migration, it's quite easy, but when it comes down to the content, there are so many parameters that we have to consider before implementing it. Our first step was we look for available solutions. There were 2 modules in particular. One is the services module, which is very powerful, and the second is the deploy module. It has the feature so that you can push a content from one website to another website. Both of them, they are pretty powerful, but they did not specifically meet our requirements. So what we did was we did a study of these 2 websites and developed our own custom module in a workflow which the client wanted. Okay. So the first thing what we did was we made our website to act both as a SOAP server and also as a client server, so that it can push content and also it can accept content. And we developed an API for each content type, so that the site editors have the ability to push content by either the blogs or the articles or any even forum submissions also. And we have handled all those fields that are included, the CCK field, the custom fields that are associated with the node, taxonomy, file attachment, and all those. Now I'm going to the next slide. The next slide is just a basic example of just implementing a SOAP server in your Drupal website. You will find many resources of how to generate a SOAP client, but what I have highlighted is the generation of a SOAP server. It's pretty simple, a 3-step. That you just create a SOAP server object as shown in the code snippet. The second is that you just declare the method. Like in our case, I just call it a save node method. And the third is register the data structure. It's actually the namespace that you're going to accept. Now, the second slide is on how we are going to push the content. I've provided a snapshot of the XML that is being shared among the two websites. Here, one point is we have implemented one feature from the deploy module, and this was and this is a major feature in terms of functionality and logic. What happened was that if a particular content is residing in two separate systems, it isn't necessary that the node ID will be the same. So what we did was we used a universal key generator so that it can identify content whether it exists in the two systems or not, so that it can appropriately do either the insert or the update operation. Now, the second part is that we just provided a backend page where the client editors can push the content by different content type. We have provided by push everything to live feature also, push what's new, push blog. These are all the content types in the website. Okay, the second part, how to implement the auto login. There were many modules which already does this. There are some limitations on those modules, like it has to be a subdomain, or it should share database and all those. But what we did is we implemented a basic logic using what we call a beacon image. What happened is that when a user logins, and it has to share login with 3 separate websites, it will insert an iframe beacon with a particular URL for the other 3 websites. And when this website is called, the other website, when they receive the request, they will automatically log in that particular user, so that when you go to another site, you already log in. There were certain ways to do it, and some of the modules, they changed the way how Drupal handles the session and the cookie, and the client was specifically strong on we should not modify the way Drupal handle those sessions and caching. So there were specific methods we have to implement so that we do not touch those. So let me just go through quickly over what we have done. Number 1 step, as you are aware that multiple Drupal sites can share database tables among themselves. So as shown in the snippet, it is showing one of the website is sharing all the users tables. So that if you are implementing for 3 websites, you have to make one one database as your default user database, and the other websites have to share the tables of the first website. We have used the database prefix method in the setting.php to achieve it. And the second part is to generate the login beacons iframe. As in the code snippet, you can see that you can call the user hook, and on line number 60, the token that is being generated, this is, I would suggest if you are implementing similar to this one, you use the lattice hash and all those logic, because unless this function is secure, your token generation function is secure, there can be a possibility of security vulnerability. We haven't found such till now, but I would suggest to be very careful of what logic you are implementing in this custom module token. And the second one is that we are inserting this token, saving it into a table called sum table for now. And the other part is that you need to share this sum table here also. And now the rest of the part is it's generating an iframe beacon for all the websites that you are sharing with. Here we have in line number 63, you can see we have a backend page where we assign the URLs of other websites with which we want to share the login. On the next slide, number 3, you can see a snapshot. When one logins on any one website, you can see the iframe login beacons of the other 3 websites are loaded. So when this iframe is loaded, it will call this particular URL with the token that is being generated, and when it hits the other URL, it will automatically log in that particular user. On number 4, I have shown you an example of how the iframe URL website URL part is hit. Here's some basic logic on how you can implement it. Like, if the user is already logged in, you have to skip it. Else, then line number 94, what happened is that it accepts, it took in all the parameters, the token parameters, and does a check. This function is very, very powerful, and I think it's based on your requirement at what you are actually implementing. Now, for the rest of the thing, it's just as simple that if everything is okay, then you just call the login hook under user module. Then the user will be automatically logged in. Okay, now we are at a stage where we are in a position, and we are looking at various methods of what will be the roadmap ahead for these 2 platforms. In Drupal, and specifically with the launch of Drupal 7, a lot of flexibility have been provided that were missing in Drupal 5 and 6, and we have used extensive advantage of those new features, and we are experimenting out with the first thing is the selective module launch. But right now, the Drupal Bootstrap launch all the module hooks on call, but we are trying to reduce that and specifically launch selective one. We are looking at the YE framework, YEE framework, for a guidance on logic on how to achieve this, and maybe on my next webinar I can share some more details on it. And the second thing on Drupal that we are working on right now is the integration with Mongo or an Oracle database. Drupal, with the release of Drupal 7, the major advantage has been the separation of the database layer. There are already modules available for Oracle and MongoDB drivers with which you can run your Drupal website. But those support are mostly for core modules, and we found out most of them are not production ready to run any critical websites. So we are quite involved in that one and trying to solutionize it. Okay. Regarding Magento, the first parameter is the performance. As you must be aware of it, since it has lots of features in its framework, there are certain performance hindrance, but with the use of new performance optimization methods, like the use of Redis NoSQL instead of using the default file catching to offload some of the catching mechanism to a NoSQL database, there has been tremendous increase in performance speed. And also with more support for different type of database, and among that the ability to use different types of database, I think Magento, the performance issue will not be a hindrance. We have overcome a lot of performance hindrance from some of the major projects, and if possible, I can share with you on another webinar in the future, and those performance optimization tasks where most of them are being in test module now, which I can share, and I want to share with the Magento Drupal Magento community developers, and I obviously would like to receive some feedbacks on it. The last point on Magento is the EVA model versus the flat module. The EVA model makes the developer independent of the database schema that is being used, but with some major projects, what we are facing is the seller wants to sell different types of products on Magento. Right now, the types of products that can be created on Magento is limited, so we want to expand more support for the types of products. So these are the roadmap which Ixula have in mind for Drupal and Magento framework, and it would be great if you can, if someone is thinking along the same line or trying to achieve the same thing, I think we should connect and have a chat over it. That's it. That's my presentation. If you have any questions, you can shoot now, or you can send me an email on somokanta@ixula.com. And another thing is that on upcoming week, we are conducting an open source conclave, particularly on Drupal and Magento framework, and we will be inviting all industry experts to present their case studies on these two platforms, and we are sending out an open invite to all the developers on these two platforms, or other platforms are welcome also. I think by weekend we will be sending out emails for this conclave with all the details, and if you are interested, just drop an email on my email ID. It is somokanta@ixula.com. Thanks, guys. I'm now awaiting for any questions. The first question is from Mahesh Damodar. He asked me about a restricted the staging. what happened is that as you know that when a website is in live environment, and you have another website where all the and another staging environment where all those content updates are happening. You wouldn't like all those content updates happening directly on a live website. The requirement for the client was that it should have that the staging website inside their office intranet, which is not accessible uh, from outside. So this is what I mean by a restricted staging. Yeah. The next question is from Himanshu Mule. He wants to know what a SOAP server is. It's a basic thing that using Drupal, it's very easy that you can call any web service by using a SOAP client. But what happens if you make your website to act as a SOAP server? That is, there will be requests hitting your website to a particular web services, and your website will be processing it in a secure way. Either you can accept the WSDL format and then returning for those requests. That's it.
Hello. Hello.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, Homo, are you able to see the questions?
Yeah, I can only see 2 questions which I have answered.
Okay, so we'll wait for some time if there are any more
Yeah.
questions.
Okay, yeah, sure. You are doing a moderation over those questions, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll be sharing a few more questions that I've
Oh,
just come across.
okay. Okay. I just received a question from Mr. Gaurav Sharma. He wants to know whether the SOAP or the REST API, which is better. Uh, the REST is a new logic, and it has some tremendous power, and I certainly like the speed at which it's much more faster than a SOAP request, and I would obviously consider it over a SOAP if I'm building any web services. So obviously the REST is superior to SOAP. I There's another question from Quap set, that how do you handle the logout? Like, I think this is for the Drupal or auto login that we've implemented. Likewise, the login functionality on logout, you can generate the iframe beacons for a logout also. It's pretty simple. There's one question from Saurav Agrawal, who asked me why to use Drupal as compared to WordPress. My suggestion is what are the intentions on what are you trying to build on it. If it's a simple SMS or a blog, then you can. I think WordPress is better than Drupal. But if you're trying to build something complex, you cannot use WordPress on it. There's one question from Vemula Venkatesh. He says asking on what is EVA model. I think it's specific to Magento, and by EVA it's the entity value attribute where when in a database schema you access it everything by an entity ID. If you want more information, you can visit the magentocommerce.com, and there is extensive documentation available on what is an EVA model. There's another question from Saurav Agrawal, in which he have asked on which requirement Drupal is best choice as Magento. There are certain projects there are e-commerce projects where instead of Magento we implement it in Drupal, where I will give you a certain case example on it. There were ways for a system where we have to develop an interface for a customer care company where the customers can call up on phone and buy products, and they also require that customer can directly order by sending an SMS, which is connected to an SMS gateway, and through which in return it calls a web services, and that Drupal UberCard system generates an order for it. So, and it twisted e-commerce requirements, which is very hard to implement in Magento. For that purpose, we use the Drupal UberCard. But for a straightaway e-commerce, Magento is certainly very powerful. One question is from Vemla. He's asking, is there any max limit for websites by using Drupal. We have, for one of the clients, running 65 websites on a multi-site architecture. Until now, we haven't found any issues. I think if you want to deploy multiple websites and based on the traffic, it comes down to the server infrastructure that you are deploying, and I think it can be easily handled. One question is from Mandani Kumari. Is there any helping hand in Magento? We started one side and it's difficult to change registration form. Mandani, why don't you try posting it on community forum, or if you're specifically just send an email to me. We would definitely help out. One question is from Mr. Gaurav Sharma on can we use MongoDB for Magento. MongoDB is very recent, in which it stores the instead of table records that is being used in an RDBMS or a DBMS like MySQL or Oracle. It stores the records in a document format. So storing and retrieving those records are very fast. The advantage of MongoDB is the speed and the size of the number of records that you can have. Certainly, MongoDB is a contender amongst the NoSQL databases on which Magento can be explored on. But currently, as of now, it has to be a mix of MySQL and MongoDB. I will give you a certain example that OpenSky.com is on a Symfony platform and they have used MongoDB. But there were some certain transactions records that needs to be stored with, and regarding that feasibility, MongoDB does not have that reliability. So even when you are doing and keeping a stock of your inventory, or if you are storing the payment information, for all those critical information, you cannot rely on MongoDB for now. You have to be dependent on the secure architecture of either an DBMS or RDBMS for that. So for now, it is going to be a mix of both. Where on MongoDB you can use it to store your product data, because retrieving it is the speed is very good, and there will be a lesser MySQL joins. From one Vikrant Ramtik, there is what the agenda of the conclave. The agenda of the conclave will be that there are major solutions, major websites that are being built using these two platforms, and we are in touch with many of the industry leaders that have implemented it, and for such kinds of complex solutions, we have called them to present their case study on why did they select these two platforms, and what are the challenges, and specifically more important on how they solve it. Regarding our conclave, there will be prominent speakers from eBay, product managers from Loyalty One, and other from Tata. Those are all recognized names, and they will be presenting their case studies on these two platforms. So any developer, and the main highlight of the conclave is on what are the features of these two solution, but rather on what are the features that should be there on these two platforms. It's more of a roadmap kind of thing, and what are the features that we should expect from the next version release of Magento. The same thing for the Drupal.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. I think we have answered most of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
So if any more questions come from the participants, so we can take them offline.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So now we can conclude the session.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Somo, for your informative session on Magento and Drupal, a case study on how to overcome the limitations. It was indeed an enlightening session. I would also like to thank our participants for the support in making this webinar a huge success. The recording of this webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Gentlemen, TechGig announces the next webinar series on usability and UI. The first session in this series is happening tomorrow, 17 February at 3 p.m. Topic for the webinar is Mobile UI and Usability Guide. We will be having Ms. Shamla Prayaga, User Experience Evangelist, as a guest speaker. So see you all tomorrow at 3 p.m. Thank you.